Okay, so you're gonna see cam, both lobes facing each other. The other thing you can tell is the slot here on the sides of the cam are gonna be parallel with each other this way. And then this cam lobe is gonna be pointing up and back a little bit, and that one's gonna be just about ready to start opening the valves. Then over here, you're gonna see, it's hard to tell, but you can see the cam marks here. So what I'll do is I'll clean all this off, and then I'm gonna make a Sharpie mark on it between the chain and the cam gear itself. Okay, so I'm gonna make a mark on the intake cam here and chain. So I'm just gonna do a nice little thick black line, follow it on to the cam here. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. Now, yes, we have these lines for reference, but I do this. This is just a good habit to get into in case you don't remember or you forget. This is a good way to get the everything lined back up. Now, the other thing you can do is come in here, take a photo before you take it apart, and then you can always go back to it, zoom in on it, and stuff like that for reference. Okay, now we're gonna start removing the 8mm head. Cam retainer cap bolts out of these. Little trick here is you can thread these into the top of the towers, like so. One, they're good little bolt keepers, plus it'll help you pull this cam retainer out. A good rule of thumb to get into is put the bolts back where they came from. So I'm just gonna give this a little wiggle, and then this is out. What we'll do is we'll set this on the bench, and we're gonna set them in order of how these came out. So this was the guide that we removed earlier so we can see the cams. This is gonna get set here. Intake side's gonna get put here. Exhaust side's gonna get put here. Okay, so we're gonna pull this intake side off. Be careful, there's little dowels. They either stay in the head or they're gonna go into the bottom side of this retainer. Now, these wear with the cams, so these again need to stay in their appropriate location. So intake side's gonna go back on the intake side, and make sure the side that has this little window here is facing to the inside towards the spark plugs holes when you reinstall them. So this will have to go back on like this. This one the same way, but make sure they go back where you got them from. Okay, now what we can do is pull the cams. What I'll do is I start with the intake side. You're pretty much just gonna grab it. I always grab from the center here. And I'm going to rock it up towards the center here. And then I can take my fingers and walk that cam chain off. Let the other cam hold it. We're gonna put this on the bench. Same thing, keep it in order. Okay. I'm gonna pull the exhaust side, same thing. I'm gonna set this here for a second. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this chain. I have this little magnet that I use, or you can take an extension like this, run it through, set it there. That'll hold the chain from falling down into the motor, which will create a whole nother thing. But if it does, you can take a nice long magnet like this, go down in there, grab the chain, pull it back up, etc. So we're gonna do that, and then what we'll do is we're gonna start by pulling one head bolt, put a head stud in, torque it, and so on and so forth all the way through. Do not loosen all of them at once, do one at a time. This is how you can do head studs without pulling the head completely off the motor. grease all the bolts. Put some on the bottom sides. Get some in there for the threads. We'll run this motor for a little bit and we'll pull this oil out of it and change it, put fresh oil on it so we can get all this assembly lube and grease out of here. And the one thing I like to do is take the head stud bolts here, take a rag or something, just clean the threads all the way through. Now we're gonna pull that one stock head bolt out. I'll put one of these in. I'll show you guys how to do that in a second. So the head size on these factory head bolts is a 14mm socket. So we're gonna pull this one out first. This is where having a magnet comes in handy again. Grab that head bolt. Here's our stock head bolt. We got that pulled out. It's the only one we're going to pull out. We're going to put one of the ARPs in now. Okay, so we're going to thread this bolt in. You're supposed to do it by hand, but because we're doing it like this, we're going to use an Allen, a small extension. And slowly just seat this down. And what I'll do is take my little 1/4" ratchet here, finish seating it the rest of the way down. You're not going to tighten these tight at all. They're just going to go until it snugs up. So, right there. Now what we'll do is take our magnet that we have. I'm telling you, go buy one of these. You gotta put your washer on, which is almost impossible to do in there because of how deep the head is. So what I do is I take the magnet, put it on the corner of a magnet, for lack of better terms here. And what you'll do is you'll slide it onto the stud and then pull your magnet off. So you go like this. I'll drop it onto the stud like that. And then I'll pull my magnet off. And I can just kind of tap it and it'll fall down into the head. So there's that. We'll take the nut, put that on there, torque it down, continue. Same thing. Take the magnet to the head or the nut that comes with the kit, and I will just kind of spin it and get it started a little bit, just enough to catch a thread or so. And then it'll stay down on there, that way you don't drop it down in the motor. Okay, so I got a 3/8 extension here. The nut for the ARP kit is a 12-point ½ inch, so I got that on the end here. We're just gonna seat that nut down on the stud and in the head. And then we're gonna torque it down to the first torque spec, and then we're going to torque it completely. Okay, so I have my torque wrench here set to 40 foot-pounds, which will be my first torque that I go to. There it is. Then the final torque for ARP is 85 foot-pounds. So we're gonna set the fancy dancy snap-on torque wrench here to the old 85. Torque this down. we go. That one's done. Now what you're gonna do is repeat the process for the other 5. So you're gonna pull this one out, repeat the same process, torque it, pull this one out, repeat the same process, torque it, all the way through. So that'll get you guys dialed in. That's how you do head studs with the head on. And then once we get done with all these, we will show you guys how to put the cams back in and time the motor. Okay, so we got the cams back in the head here, and as you can see, our lines are still in the position that they need to be, and the chain and the marks on the cam gears are in line from when we marked them. So we can go up here, we can check our cam lobes in reference to when we took it apart. Same thing with the ends of the camshafts here. They're in line with each other, so we're good to go. So now we can just start putting the cam caps and stuff back on and torque it down and put the tensioner back in, and we'll be good to go.